Yo, 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 what is going on, my beautiful brothers and sisters, fellow radiators of love? My name is Jamal Pope, aka J Phoenix, and this is going to be your daily astrology horoscope for Monday, December 9th of 2024. I appreciate you all joining me in this video. I'm trusting you guys had a wonderful weekend. Let's go ahead and hop into it and see what we have going on this Monday to start off this week. It's actually kind of an interesting week, just kind of at a glance. Throughout this week, we will see Venus oppose Mars. We will, of course, see the moon actually square both Mars and Venus when it goes into Taurus. But the main thing this week is this underlying current that is the Jupiter-Pluto sesquiquadrant, which is a 135-degree angle. It is between the trine and the quincunx. So trine is 120 degrees. The quincunx is 150. So you have this sesquiquadrant. This is an aspect that not a lot of people really talk about. It's similar to a quincunx as far as its energy, where it makes things a little bit awkward and a little bit difficult. It's not really the easiest aspect to deal with. But like I said, it can allow for a fair amount of growth. It's an interesting aspect because it's still the same, like it's the same element, right? But it's not the trine, right? It's not. It almost feels like it goes a little too far, if you will, right? So a lot of times we can overdo it with the sesquiquadrants. We may take things a little too far outside of what is harmonious. It may lean a little bit too much to one side. So it's kind of an interesting aspect. We will see this Jupiter sesquiquadrant, this Pluto, throughout the entire week. And when it's interesting because by the end of the week, that moon is going to conjunct this Jupiter and it's going to have us feel more into this underlying aspects. And then Mercury comes direct next Monday. So it's a pretty interesting week where it doesn't seem like there's a ton of stuff happening, but there's this underlying current that you are sure to feel. Now, for this Monday, we will see the moon, of course, begin its day in Pisces and it will shift into Aries, right? So it's going to conjunct this Neptune, which has just gone forward, right? We'll see that this, I have it set to days. Oops. Let me set that back to hours. There we go. See, now this thing is being lame and it's not. Let's see, I'll fix that. Bam. Okay. Better. Okay. All right, let me get this to hours. Bam. There we go. Now we Gucci. We'll see that moon shift into Aries, and it's going to immediately sextile over to this Pluto and to this Ceres and Venus, right? Of course, this moon going into Aries is definitely going to bring some firepower and some spice. People are definitely going to be feeling hot, if you will, going into this week, especially considering the events of the previous week. We will see now this moon is being disposited by a Mars that is retrograde in Leo. So this can definitely bring up frustrations. This can definitely bring up even struggles with creativity and passion and just simply expressing who we are, especially when this moon conjoins with this north node at 3 degrees. We'll see. And it's definitely, like I said, it could definitely bring up some of these frustrations because you may not be feeling as creative, you may not be feeling as motivated. But I think at the same time, we have to consider here, the sun here, 18 degrees, right? Coming off that opposition to Jupiter. 1 plus 8 is 9. 9 is Mars energy. So today's it's going to feel like a very Mars day, especially with the sun being in the decan still ruled by Mars. It's going to feel like a very Mars day, even though it's not Tuesday, and Tuesday's technically Mars day. So people are going to be a little bit more impulsive. People are going to be a little bit more emotionally reactive today. People are going to be a little bit more headstrong today. Aries does rule the head. So just something to keep in mind for the day. You're going to I also would just be wary of, road rage, traffic jams, especially with Saturn that's still moving slow, especially with Neptune that just came back online, right? So I would just be wary of all those things on this Monday because people are really going to be wearing their emotions on their sleeve, and it's going to be hard for people to hide their emotions. People are going to be wearing them on their face. It's like this is a day where Resting bitch face is definitely going to be a thing. Like it'll be hard for you to hide your emotions. You'll just be wearing it on your face and stuff. So just something to keep aware of, right? We will see, of course, Jupiter hit that 15th degree and begin its 135-degree angle over to Pluto, which is just going to add another layer of potential frustration here, mainly because Jupiter, of course, is wanting to explore, it's wanting to expand, but it's feeling very deflated moving backwards in Gemini. And with that Pluto in Aquarius, we definitely can start to feel like there's some sort of control mechanisms in our life. There can also be obsessions with groups of people and ideologies and ideas and facts and beliefs. There could be obsessions with all of these different things. And how all of these things correlate. Do our beliefs automatically correlate to being fact, or is that not the case? Are there control mechanisms? Do we feel like we're being controlled? Do we feel like we're being, pushed into a corner? Do we feel like there's some sort of boundary? Pluto does rule boundaries. We feel like there's some sort of boundary that we cannot seem to penetrate. Is there a club that we feel like we can't seem to penetrate? George Carlin said it best. It's one big club and you're not a part of it. And I think a lot of people are starting to feel that, and a lot of people are going to be expressing their displeasure with such a thing too. Especially, like I said, with this moon in Aries, I wouldn't be surprised if we see, unfortunately, more violence. I hate to call for violence because I definitely don't call for that, but I'm just saying that with all this energy, with the moon that's now being disposited by a Mars that's retrograde, it coming on with the North Node, and it's getting ready to, like I said, trine over to this Mercury. It's coming out the sextile to this Pluto and Venus, and now we have a Ceci quadrant that's building up, and we're going to be feeling it all week. If it doesn't pop off necessarily on Monday, it may wait until that moon reaches that Chiron, because then someone somewhere is going to get triggered, and that may, have a whole thing, especially considering the fact that this moon will be a Chiron when the sun hits 19 degrees. So it'll be effectively trining over to the sun, which that could give us an opportunity for amazing growth. But also, if we, if we get too caught up in our woundings and our traumas and overly identify with them, then that could be turned into an issue as well. But as the day progresses, once we hit, that later part of the evening, we'll see that moon hit that 8 degrees, right? It starts to make a trine over to Mercury, and it does trine Mars as well. So we kind of have a bit of a grand fire trine, even though it's not really exact. I really wouldn't really count this one, just because Mercury and Mars are both retrograde, so they're not really feeling their strongest. Remember, Mars, yeah, it's in a fire sign, but now it's moving backwards, which it hates. It hates moving backwards. It always wants to move forward. It always wants to keep things moving in one direction. Mercury, of course, detriment in Sagittarius, trying to see the big picture of things, but it's really hard for it to, encapsulate all of that, right? So it is at least boosted by the sun being there. Mercury and the sun, they do like traveling together, so at least it has that going for it. But otherwise, Mercury's not necessarily getting it either. So like I said, this is a day where it's like, yeah, we're not going to have all the answers. We're not going to have all the energy. We're not going to have all the firepower. And yes, there's going to be some frustrations that mount. But we got to be able to take those frustrations and be able to turn them into something else. We got to learn how to use some alchemy here and realize that, A, it's not all about you. B, it's not all about, the way that you see it and the way that you want things to go. There's a divine timing to things, and we have to just keep that in mind, especially for a week like this, because I really do feel like that Jupiter-Pluto Ceci quadrant is going to be a major player this week. It's subtle, and probably not a lot of astrologers are going to talk about it, but just keep an eye on this, especially once the moon meets up with Jupiter. We're really going to feel into it. And unfortunately, because like I said, Jupiter typically does rule fortune and it rules expansion and it wants to feel good and feel jolly. The Ceci quadrant to Pluto is anything but jolly. It's feeling anything but fortunate. People can be really feeling deflated. People can really feeling like they're being left out or shafted and stuff. Don't allow that feeling to just completely take over. Maybe, like I said, I would say feel into that energy, understand it, observe it, process it, but don't allow it to force you into making some sort of decision that you're going to later regret. Because there's a big propensity for that this week. Just saying. So let's go ahead and hop into the cards. Let's see what we have going on for that. Ooh. All right. Let's see what we got going on. What we got going on. Horse. I got the 5 of coins upright. Like I said, feeling like you're left out, feeling like you're not involved, feeling like you're not invited, feeling a lack of warmth, feeling cold. That's the other part about this too, is that some people are going to, instead of seek warmth and instead of foster warmth and foster companionship, they're going to choose to be outside. This is going to be a choice this week, right? It doesn't have to be your choice, but this is going to be a choice. No one's forcing you out into the cold. You're putting yourself there. So, just something to keep in mind. But this is a mentality. And this is how a lot of people feel. And I think they have a right to feel this way, right? They do have a right to feel this way. I don't want to deny that. But continuing to stay in this place and continuing to choose this place is ultimately a choice. So you don't have to choose that. I have that followed by the Empress in reverse. Yeah, so things could feel a little bit unnatural today. So that's something to just keep in mind. You know, there could be some unnatural things here, maybe even some unnatural phenomenon. I don't know why that's coming up, me channeling. But the Empress card does speak to knowing our worth, knowing our value. But like I said, with it being reversed, we could definitely be feeling a little bit off today. We could be feeling a little bit unnatural, maybe even out of character per se. So it's just something to take into consideration. If anything, honestly, I feel like it's more so because the moon is in Aries and because it's being disposited by this Mars, it's almost like an exaggeration, right? It's almost like, you know, us not necessarily feeling like we're in our power, and almost like, when I say like an exaggeration, I feel like, see, the thought was there and then it dipped. And maybe that's kind of what it is, you know? Maybe you feel like you're about to grasp something and then it escapes you, right? You feel like you're just like right there and you feel like it's going to escape you. And maybe that's why that 5 of coins came up. It's because you feel like you're like right there and then it just leaves. And then that can cause a depression, that can cause anxiety. I would say do not tie your worth, do not tie your emotions, do not tie your happiness to, when I achieve this one thing, when I do this thing, I will be happy. That's a recipe for disaster. And I think that's what the combination of with this 5 of coins, with the Empress in reverse is saying, is that like that true value is inherently coming from within you. It's not something that anybody can assign to you. It's not, you know, the amount of necessary money that you make. It's not necessarily the title that you have. It's not the fans that you have or adoration. It's not any of that. It is something that comes from within you, and nobody can take that away from you except for you. So don't tie your happiness to some sort of external circumstance. It has to be something that comes from within. And I think it's something that we're going to really need to pay attention to this entire week. That's going to do it for your daily astrology horoscope. I trust that this message will assist you on your journey today. If you did enjoy this message, I appreciate it if you like, share, and subscribe. And I definitely appreciate that. But y'all take care, stay blessed, have a wonderful Monday, and I'll see you all on the next video. Peace.